Thank you for watching my video. I am the craftswoman and I'm here to talk about the books that I have published within the last few years. It is the Dark Womb Redemption series, and it didn't start out as a series. I was just writing one book. I didn't know I was gonna continue to write more books. So I just want to talk about how I came up with the title, because a lot of people ask me, how did you come up with the Dark Womb Redemption that's different? So I didn't want to use the word black, because the first book is the Dark Womb Redemption, a holistic guide to womb wellness for black women. So this book I was writing for black women because that's who I was working with, and they were the ones who were telling me they were having a lot of womb issues. So I didn't want to use the word black, so I just used the word dark. And also, not only to mean like dark people, black people, or whatever, but it's also to remember to highlight things that are hidden. So that was the reason for me coming up with the word dark, and of course womb, because I'm talking about the uterus and different problems that black women are having with their uterus. And redemption is like, it can be saved, you know, it can be helped. So I started out as a birth worker when I became a mother 15 plus years ago. It just became natural to me. It was nothing I ever thought that I would do. I wasn't like that maternal one. I was the person who was into beauty, business, partying, stuff like that. So when I stopped partying, I started to just read a lot, and I just started to learn a lot. I was addicted to going to the library, just reading books all the time. I had a backpack. People thought I was in college. I'm a college dropout. I didn't graduate, but I kept reading. So I developed a lot of knowledge. So when I became pregnant, I became obsessed with pregnancy, because I was intrigued. I was in awe at what was happening inside of my body and all of these changes that were happening. So I was reading everything about child care. I did hear about doulas. A midwife that I was seeing for prenatal care had mentioned to me that I should get a doula. I ended up being in the hospital alone, and that's when I knew all the education that I thought that I had, it didn't come into play, because you need a physical person there. No matter how much you read, you're very vulnerable when you are in labor and having a baby. So after I had my baby, women would just ask me, you know, how did you have your baby naturally? And I ended up having a C-section, and I had I was breastfeeding successfully for almost 2 years with my first child, and I was getting questions about that, so just naturally started helping people, and it became a passion with me to help women during childbirth. So started doing the work, then got certified. After I became certified as a doula, I thought I was going to have all of these women telling me, hey, I'm pregnant, I want you to assist me. But instead I had women actually telling me that they couldn't conceive and they were bleeding for weeks. So that's when I learned about fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis. I didn't even know that these things existed. Then I got certified to do yoni steams, and so that brought me into another world of womb healing. I began to teach free classes, and I said, why am I printing off all this paper during these classes? I should just put everything in a book. I also went public about my personal child molestation story, so I did want to actually put that in writing and really talk to people about preventing sexual abuse and what are the signs that you can see, because there's so many things that hint to sexual abuse that we don't think about or we don't like to remember. So a lot of women, a lot of people, even men, have been sexually abused, unfortunately. So the women are suffering with womb trauma. Men have their issues as well. But we as a community, and it's not just in the black community, this is a global thing. This is happening in all different races. But when Women are sexually violated, whether it's when they're a child, when they're an adult. It can cause womb trauma. It's a very traumatic experience. And I know a lot of people have told me, oh, it happened to me, I'm good, I'm fine. But in reality, it's something that it really never goes away. You just learn how to cope with it. You know, you don't stay within a depression. You come out of it, and you know, you work through it and you learn how to cope with it. But we want to prevent it from happening. So anyway, this book is not all about that, but this book is for women who want to heal their womb, start a new wellness routine, improve their uterine health. So you don't have to have went through any type of womb trauma as you may think, but you may be bleeding for too long. You may have had issues with getting pregnant. This is like an overall book that you can read. There are different exercises, healthy recipes, so many good things in this book. You make sure that you want to get this first. It still does cover fertility, postpartum, breastfeeding, and pregnancy. So it still does cover, that's a small portion of that, but this is mainly about just healing your womb, you know, before you get pregnant. So I wrote that one, and I was told that I should write a book about pregnancy. So years later, I wrote my second book, The Dark Womb Redemption 2, A Guide to Pregnancy, Childbirth, and Postpartum. I actually wrote this book years ago, but it was not edited properly at all, so I had to basically rewrite the book and get it edited again. There are some things that are in this book, but it's pretty much a new book. So it's going to start from mate selection, because we do need to be planning our pregnancies. I know a lot of us have oops babies, as I call them, or babies that we don't happen to plan. But you want to plan your pregnancy, be very, very intentional about your pregnancy, selecting a birth team, selecting a doula if that's what you want. And I'm talking about medical interventions, the actual labor. There's affirmations in there that you can use while you're pregnant and also while you're going through labor. And then of course I'm talking about postpartum. There's a little bit about breastfeeding. There's not much about breastfeeding, because I wanted to write this book for those who may choose not to breastfeed, or who's having a cesarean. So I'm big on natural birth and breastfeeding, but this book is for just anyone who is thinking about getting pregnant, already pregnant, or recently giving birth. So it's going to be deeply talking about how to use the yoga ball, different exercises, because you need to prepare your body for labor while you're pregnant, and the things that you do before you get pregnant and before you have your baby is going to affect your postpartum healing and really your overall womb care. And I'm talking about belly binding and how to V-steam and so many different things about pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. So definitely get The Dark Womb Redemption 2. If you know anybody who's pregnant, this is a great book to get. And I also have the journal that goes with that book, or any of the pregnancy books. So this is a therapeutic book for you to write all those things down that you think about when you're pregnant, because pregnancy is such an intimate time, and it happens so fast. It goes by so fast, and it's such a special time that, you know, you want to write things down in your pregnancy journal and go back and look at it. So get that one also. And this is for my people who want to go the holistic route. So this is The Dark Womb Redemption 2. This is a guide to fertility, home birth, and breastfeeding. So if you are having problems with infertility, reoccurring miscarriages, this is a good book. Then I'm telling you exactly how to conceive naturally. There are steps in here of my personal journey of overcoming infertility, and there's also a personal story of my prenatal care and having unassisted births at home successfully. So an unassisted birth is when you have your baby at home without a midwife or a doctor. And some may say it's risky, some may say it's normal, it's the way it's supposed to be. It's all about your decision, what you feel comfortable with. This is what I felt comfortable with, because I was not having good experiences during prenatal care, and I already know what it's like when you have your baby in the hospital, and it's like you don't have rights to have your baby the way you want to, because there are policies in place, and those people are working their job and they have to enforce those policies. So we're also going to be I'm also talking about breastfeeding. So I've had a lot of problems. I still exclusively breastfed all of my children. I've never used formula, but I've still had problems and no support. So if you want to breastfeed, pump, and I'm also talking about the weaning stage. You guys know that the weaning is nothing to play with. That can be more challenging than actually getting your baby to latch on in the beginning. So you definitely want to get that book. And I also forgot about the Dark Womb Redemption Workbook, which is a book companion to the first book, The Dark Womb Redemption, A Holistic Guide to More Wellness for Black Women. Anybody can get this book. This is, of course, writing therapy for you to heal your womb. It's a good book for self-discovery. You can do it alone. You can do it with a group. So check out the Dark Womb Redemption series. You can get 1, 2, 3, or all of the books, whichever one